I would like to suggest 5 major stages that will be relevant to our study of the Bible. 1. Early settlement. 2. United monarchy. 3. Divided monarchy. 4. Babylonian exile. And 5. Restoration Persian period. You will note that in this analysis, I will begin with the period of Israel's early settlement of the land. From a strictly historical perspective, we truly have no hard evidence for the ancestors, Moses, the Exodus and wilderness wandering, etc. This is not to say that these events did not occur. It is to say that there is no historical or archaeological record of these events outside the Bible that would allow us to establish a chronology. Scholars have attempted for many years to associate certain broad sociological and cultural patterns depicted in the Torah literature to similar patterns discovered in the historical and archaeological record of the ancient world. For our purposes, however, we begin with the first solid historical evidence in the historical record outside the Bible for the existence of a group called Israel. In 1896, a British archaeologist, Flinders Petrie, discovered in the ancient Egyptian capital of Thebes a black granite pillar known as a stela with an inscription, a kind of victory hymn composed on behalf of Pharaoh Merneptah, celebrating his successful military campaign in Palestine. Dated to the year 1205 BCE, the stela mentions a group called Israel, using a designation that indicates a loosely organized tribal society. This reference has encouraged scholars to date the settlement of the Israelite tribes in the land of Israel to around this time. This early settlement period, which would roughly correspond to the period of the judges in the Bible, lasts until the advent of the United Monarchy circa 1025 BCE. The United Monarchy lasted throughout the reigns of Saul, David, and Solomon until the beginning of the reign of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, in 928 BCE. At this time, according to the Bible, the tribes of the north seceded from the United Monarchy. From this time, there were 2 Hebrew kingdoms in Palestine, a northern kingdom known as the Kingdom of Israel, ruled by a series of royal dynasties, and a southern kingdom known as the Kingdom of Judah, ruled by the descendants of King David. We refer to this period as the Divided Monarchy. The Divided Monarchy was disrupted in 722 BCE, when the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, exiled many of its inhabitants, and repopulated the area with exiled peoples from other parts of the empire. These exiled Israelites are what we often call the Lost 10 Tribes of Israel. In the year 586 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia conquered the kingdom of Judah, destroyed Jerusalem and the first temple, and exiled the leading citizens of the kingdom to Babylonia. This is the period of the Babylonian exile. The exile lasted 50 years until, in 536 BCE, the Persian king Cyrus, who had conquered Babylonia, issued a decree encouraging exiles to return to and rebuild their native lands. A certain number of exiles from the kingdom of Judah, though not all, returned to the territory of the former kingdom of Judah, which became the Persian province of Judea, hence the Restoration Persian period. In order to put all of these events into a geographic framework, we have to look at the larger biblical world. You should be aware of the fact that what we call the Middle East is more often referred to as the Near East when we talk about ancient history. This may simply be due to the different vocabulary of the two separate disciplines, modern Middle East studies as opposed to ancient Near Eastern studies. However, the two terms, Middle East and Near East, refer to the same geographic region, Western Asia and the Eastern Mediterranean. We see many places that have become familiar to us in recent years. The Persian Gulf in the south, with Saudi Arabia and the Emirates on the west coast, and Iran on the east coast. Iraq west of Iran, and Syria west of Iraq and along the east coast of the Mediterranean. Turkey to its north, Egypt along the southern coast of the Mediterranean, west of the Red Sea. You can spot the Nile River and the delta as it empties into the Mediterranean. Of course, Greece and Italy are along the northern coast of the Mediterranean. You'll notice that from this satellite map, there appears a fertile area along the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, and extending along southern Turkey, and then down through western Iran and eastern Africa and eastern Iraq. We refer to this as the Fertile Crescent. In between is largely desert, except along the river valleys. Speaking of river valleys, one of the most well-known geographic regions of the ancient world is Mesopotamia. The word Mesopotamia means between the rivers, and it refers to the area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. In the time period that we'll be covering, Mesopotamia was dominated by two major kingdoms, each of which grew into empires at various times: Assyria in the north and Babylonia in the south. Another area we'll be discussing, particularly as regards the New Testament literature, is what historians of the ancient world refer to as Asia Minor. Basically, we're talking about modern Turkey, but you can see that it is sort of an addition to the continent of Asia, so it's often referred to as Asia Minor. Finally, biblical events are centered around the eastern coast of the Mediterranean, Syria-Palestine, sometimes referred to as the Levant, literally the rising, or the place of the rising sun, as seen from the west. These are the very real lands in which biblical events play out. Palestine, the land of Israel. The ancient Israelites referred to this territory prior to their settlement as Canaan. I will be highlighting 9 major regions. 1, the coastal plain. 2, the Shephelah. 3, the central highlands. 4, the Jezreel Valley. 5, Galilee. 6, the Jordan River Rift Valley. 7, the Dead Sea. 8, Transjordan. And 9, the Negev Desert. We'll begin with the coastal plain, which is somewhat wider in the south and gradually narrows until it is totally interrupted by the Carmel mountain range as it meets the Mediterranean Sea at the modern city of Haifa. Next is the Shephelah, or lowlands, the rolling hills that separate the coastal plain from the next region, the central highlands. The Shephelah becomes a major area of conflict between Israelites and Philistines. The Central Highland region forms the core of early Israelite settlement. To the east is largely arid desert, as the land descends into the so-called Rift Valley, where the Jordan River flows. At the northern end of the Central Highlands is the Jezreel Valley, that runs from Haifa in the northwest to Beit Shan in the southeast. The Jezreel Valley separates the mountains of the Central Highlands from the mountainous region of Galilee, which includes the well-known landmark, the Sea of Galilee, known in Hebrew as Kinneret, or the harp-shaped lake. The Jordan River has its source north of Kinneret and flows through what is known as the Rift Valley, which actually extends from southern Turkey to East Africa. The Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea. To the east of the Jordan is Transjordan, literally across the Jordan. This area currently forms part of the Kingdom of Jordan, but during the early phases of biblical history, it was occupied by tribes and groups associated with the nascent nation of Israel, and remained a disputed area throughout the history of biblical Israel. Indeed, it becomes a central focus of some of the stories in the book of Judges, most especially in the story of Jephthah in Judges 11 and 12. The entire southern part of the country is dominated by the arid Negev desert.